Friends, first, I would like you to please help me recall what we did yesterday in human transport. I hope you'll help me recall the ideas like hemoglobin, metrohemoglobin bound to oxygen. What do we call it?
Oxyhemoglobin.
Oxyhemoglobin, mashallah. I want Ali Abdullah Meher, who is with us, Meher, and Ali Abdullah, yeah. And Noor is about to join Mariam. So, beta, hemoglobin bound. We'll have a recap and let's add up a little more information. Let's see who joined me. It's okay, Sarbai, right? Noor Raja. Yeah, a little late start. Assalamu alaikum, Noor Raja. Beta, we are just recapping that HB, थोड़ा सा recap और थोड़ा सा new भी कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? HB bound, अब देखो ये तो बंद हो गया. Okay, HB bound with oxygen. When hemoglobin gets bound with oxygen, by the way, one HB can pick up maximum of 4 oxygen molecules. Please remember this, right? HB with oxygen is called
Oxyhemoglobin.
Wow, oxyhemoglobin. And next, you'll be telling me one, and then so HB bound with H plus. What is that? Ali bhai, Noor. Do you remember hemoglobinic acid? Bacho, do you remember that? Hemoglobinic acid, right? HHB. HHB. You can note down this, right? And then HB bound to CO2. This is new today. Dear friends, this is new, right? So if HB is bound to CO2, we'll understand how in the coming discussion. That's called
Anhydrase.
Carbaminoglobin. This one.
Oh.
I'll explain you, don't worry. Okay. So the recap thingy is, acha, one more thing, by the way, HB bound with CO, that's all the way different. If HB is attached with CO, carbon monoxide, we call it carboxyhemoglobin. Ali beta, are you listening to me? Ali ki mujhe awaaz nahi aa rahi, and Ali is typing something. Okay. So Noor, can you hear me? Meher to bol rahi hai.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Noor Raja, aapko awaaz aa rahi hai beta? Noor is typing here. Acha, shayad aapke mic hai. Okay, thank you. So this is all about, we had a minor recap, and also we looked at, we tried to see, HB.
Yes. What's the formula for carboaminoglobin? Like for hemoglobinic acid, it's HHB. What's the formula for carboaminoglobin?
No, that's not part, of course. There's no formula. We are going by syllabus, na? That's not needed. ठीक है मेहर?
Okay, sir.
Okay. अच्छा, ये वैसे मैंने टर्मिनोलॉजी लिखी है. इसमें एक तो रिकैप था कि ऑक्सीमोग्लोबिन एंड हीमोग्लोबिनिक एसिड, और दो नई चीजें कि कार्बमाइनोग्लोबिन एंड कार्बोक्सीहीमोग्लोबिन. So now human transport में we are on recap, and second thing we did was allosterism at lungs. Bachcho, do you all remember allosterism at lungs? What is that? Anyone?
Yes.
Mariam, आप बताइए. Allosterism means different shape.
of hemoglobin.
Yeah, initial binding of dash with dash is harder. Those whose mic is bad, like Ali Abdullah and Noor, you can better type for me. Allosterism means different shape, right? So allosterism at lungs means when oxygen binds to HB, the shape of HB gets changed. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
This is called allosterism. And successive binding becomes easier. So this allosterism at lungs is very good for oxygen binding. I repeat, initial binding of oxygen with HB is a little tough, but after the oxygen binds to HB, shape of HB gets changed so that the successive binding becomes easier. ठीक है बच्चों? This is called allosterism at lungs.
Yes.
This is called allosterism at lungs. Then we studied yesterday that day before yesterday, sorry, that what is closed, what is double circulatory system. I'm sure you remember that closed circulatory system means where blood remains inside the blood vessels. And double circulatory system means that blood enters and leaves the heart twice in one circuit. In one circulation. Your blood passes through the heart twice in one circulation. We also studied on our first day that what actually is transport system. So हमने बोला था transport system is the one which has three things: fluid to be transported, pumping organ, and the vessels. We also studied that there are semilunar valves at dash places in the heart.
4 places.
4 है ना? मरियम बेटा कहाँ पे थे? Pulmonary valve, vena cava, pulmonary artery, and aorta. And there are bicuspid and tricuspid, right? So this is all the recap. And yes, what we did yesterday was Bohr's shift. So I would like Mr. Ali and Ms. Noor, please, if you could write me what is Bohr's shift. मैं आपके लिए easy कर देता हूँ. Bohr's shift is when sigmoid curve turns right due to increase in partial pressure of dash. Okay, Noor and Ali, you are supposed to write that dash. Bohr's shift is when, yeah, I know curve shifting right, but look, Bohr's shift is when sigmoid curve turns right due to rise in the partial pressure of dash. Ji, Ms. Noor and Mr. Ali. Okay, Meher and Mariam now.
Oxygen.
आप क्या कहने मेरा? No, look, sigmoid curve turns right at tissues. Bachcho, Bohr's shift occurs at respiring tissues, right? It takes place at respiring tissues. And respiring tissues means they are the places where, बेटा आप स्क्रीन देखिए. तो respiring tissues में क्या होता है? Dash oxygen and dash CO2. बताइए. Wow, less oxygen and more CO2. So that rise in CO2 makes sigmoid curve turns right. हम इसको थोड़ा सा रिकॉल कर लेते हैं और अभी तक तो रिकॉल ही चल रहा है. आपको याद है this is capillary where here is my what? Allah Akbar, red blood cell. Thank you, Mariam. Red blood cell. बच्चों, I want you help me please. This is blood
Red blood cell.
This is blood plasma. And this guy is RBC. And here I'm very sad, nothing from Ali Abdullah and Noor so far. But I am putting you option to write, to speak me the answer. So from respiring cells, dash comes out.
Carbon dioxide.
Oh, thanks God. आप कह रहे हैं CO2, good. Ali, yes. Ali Abdullah, well done. CO2 comes out from respiring cells. These are respiring cells, right? The one in green.
Yes.
और इनके बीच में क्या है? Capillary. So respiring cells obviously respire and produce CO2. Mariam समझ आ रही बेटा? And then CO2 goes from plasma to what? Inside?
Red blood cell.
Red blood cell. And there CO2 will combine with?
Water. H2O.
Water. Shakir Abbasi, the great water. And that makes what?
Carbonic anhydrase.
H2CO3. And this enzyme, this job is catalyzed by carbonic anhydrase.
Is that called?
No. H2CO3 then breaks into H plus and HCO3 negative ion. And then H plus binds to hemoglobin.
And then that makes hemoglobin.
Yes. So you actually need to know the sequence. Let me draw this again. But this is my RBC. जी बोले किसी बच्चे ने मैसेज किया I think you can't hear. Yeah, I can't hear you. Wait, Ali, let me change the speaker maybe. Ali bhai, I can't hear you because you are muted. Please unmute yourself. You all are muted. That's why class is a little not okay. Anyway, इसको मैं कहाँ लेके जाऊँ? And I'm recording this as well. Yes. So बच्चों, मैं डिलीट कर रहा हूँ. अब आपने मुझे दोबारा इसको फिल कराना है. Please be quick with me. The space was little, all the space was used up. So I think it's time to recap. Yes. From cells, respiring cells, CO2 goes out, which goes to RBC combining with, as Shakir Abbasi told us, CO2 with water making what? H2CO3.
HCO3.
H2CO3. And H2CO3, this making is catalyzed by enzyme carbonic
anhydrase.
This H2CO3 then breaks into two things, H plus
H2,
and
HCO3 minus.
Wow. HCO3 minus goes out of the cells to plasma. And 85% of CO2 is transported from tissues to lungs as HCO3 negative. 85% of CO2 is transported from tissues to plasma, tissues to lungs as HCO3 negative. And H plus, where does H plus go? H plus goes in
hemoglobin.
Yeah, there is oxyhemoglobin, na?
Yes.
Beta, देखो
Oxyhemoglobin.
Yeah. ये आया lungs से oxygen लेके. H plus binds to dash HB. And then allosterism will occur. ठीक है? तो अब मुझे जल्दी से आप लोग बता सकते हैं कि CO2 combines with water.
Water.
Makes, let me see, there is some chat. Didn't say anything verbally to release. Yeah, okay. Okay, beta. It's a little hard to come to adapt with chat also. But the thing is, CO2 with water, H2CO3. इतनी दफा कर दिए फिर भी हम खुद ही बोल रहे हैं. This breaks to H plus and HCO3 negative.
HCO3 negative.
HCO3 negative comes to plasma. Mariam, HCO3 negative comes to blood plasma.
And if 5% of carbon dioxide is changed to the lungs through HCO3
minus. It's carried to lungs as this. Is she right? And H plus binds to hemoglobin. Which hemoglobin? The oxyhemoglobin ka hemoglobin.
Oxyhemoglobin. This is having oxygen.
Yeah, uske H plus will go and bind to this hemoglobin. And this will make HHB, hemoglobinic acid. ठीक है बच्चों, this binding of H plus to hemoglobin changes the shape of hemoglobin. Lodge. Need to sober up. Just woke up. No problem, beta. Ali Abdullah. I hardly have you in class, by the way, in the whole month, just 3-4 days. Hemoglobinic acid. And this is allosterism. H plus binding to HB is allosterism. And this makes oxyhemoglobin throw away its what? Oxygen. बच्चों देखो एक allosterism lungs में था जो help करता था. Are you with me? There was an allosterism at lungs. Lungs में जब HB की shape change होती थी तो binding of oxygen was becoming easier या harder?
Harder. In the beginning.
देखिए मेहर, अगर lungs में हमने पढ़ा था initial, ये ऊपर नंबर 2 पे जो हमने पढ़ा जो सेकंड में, जैसे मरियम में बता रही है कि initial binding of oxygen with HB is tough, but after the oxygen binds to HB, shape of HB gets changed, successive binding becomes easier. So hemoglobin gets attached gets saturated with oxygen at lungs. So at lungs, this allostatism is good or bad for us?
Good.
Good, because this makes HB pick up more and more oxygen. Yes or no?
Yes.
But at lungs, at tissues, respiring tissues, there is another allostatism. But this time, this allostatism because of H plus binding to oxygen. Right? Can you see?
Yes. Understood.
Can you see the picture? H plus binding to oxyhemoglobin. Okay? At muscles, respiring places, wherever there is respiration, active cells. So look over there, what happens? H plus binds to, can you see this diagram? Yeah, H plus binds to oxyhemoglobin. So hemoglobin then changes shape and throws away its oxygen. So hemoglobin got to change in shape, and we'll say that this got allostatism, right? And this is again good. Why? Because this allostatism at muscles, at respiring tissues, makes release of oxygen. Allostatism at lungs would help take up of oxygen, but allostatism
Pick up
at,
of oxygen. It's
yeah,
release of oxygen at the respiring tissues.
yes, did you get it? Release of oxygen. And then what happens with HCO3 negative? This is going to plasma and this all, right? तो बच्चों देखो ये जो है ना, जैसे ही H plus binds to HB, excuse me, hemoglobinic acid, इसकी shape change होगी, and this will throw away oxygen, and that oxygen will straight go to what? Body cells. So you can see this is how from body cells CO2 is taken up and oxygen is sent to that. I hope the idea is conveyed. ये जो
Yes, sir.
at respiring cells, oxyhemoglobin throws away its oxygen. This is called dissociation. What is it called? When? Yeah, where does that oxygen go? It is taken up by cells, which they respire, they use oxygen in aerobic respiration. The very purpose of hemoglobin is to carry oxygen from lungs to tissues, where it is used in respiration. Did you get it? And this, बच्चों, sigmoid curve जो होता है ना, याद है ना, sigmoid curve will turn to right or left. Hello, sigmoid
Right.
turn will नूर कुछ टाइप ही कर दें आप. Sigmoid curve will shift to right. Sigmoid curve will shift to right. And
Right.
this is called Bohr's shift. Bohr's shift. And there was another thing, chloride shift. Do you remember that chloride shift?
Let me say, you said allostatism at respiring tissue is called.
Sorry,
Give
beta.
it a name. You said that allostatism at respiring tissue is called. You gave it some name.
Can you say again, please, beta? Just one more time. I couldn't hear you.
You were telling us about that at respiring tissues, oxygen is dropped by hemoglobin.
Yeah.
You named this process something.
Dissociation.
Decided
Yeah.
allostatism.
Dissociation. Dissociation. It is called dissociation. That's why this curve is also called oxygen dissociation curve. Look, dissociation. Because Meher beta, at lungs association occurs. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Mariam, association of oxygen to HB occurs at lungs. And dissociation of oxygen from HB occurs at tissue. हमारा पर्पस था कि हम पढ़ें कि वो dissociation होती कैसे. So sigmoid curve turns right or left?
At dissociation, sigmoid curve turns towards right.
Yes. Dissociation means sigmoid curve turns. Hello?
Right.
Sigmoid curve turns right. Nice. और फिर वो जो HCO3 नेगेटिव आयन बाहर आते हैं, outside becomes negative या positive? बच्चों, HCO3 नेगेटिव आयन जब RBC से बाहर आएंगे तो outside RBC will become positive या negative?
Positive.
बच्चों, HCO3 negative ions, when they move out of RBCs, so outside will become negative, no? Because they are negative ions. Yes or no?
Yes.
तो इसको बैलेंस आउट करने के लिए क्लोराइड आयंस मूव इन,
Move inside the
दिस इज
cell.
कॉल्ड क्लोराइड शिफ्ट, इट्स अ न्यू एडिशन। रिमेंबर बेटा, ये पेपर पास्ट पेपर में आपको नहीं मिलेगा, तो आप इसको गौर से समझें। क्लोराइड आयंस in move into RBCs. So this is called chloride shift to balance the release of dash. HCO3 नेगेटिव आयन। ठीक है नूर बेटा, आपको समझ आ रही है प्लीज? I see you're typing it. Good. चले, that's nice. So let's move on next. And that's very interesting. आपको मैं इसको बेटा जल्दी से हम रिकॉल करेंगे और फिर हम नए टॉपिक पे जाते हैं। एंड व्हाट्स द रिकॉल आइडिया कि आप मेरे साथ जल्दी से, मुझे तीनों बच्चे, ठीक है नूर आप मुझे टाइप कर दें, आई थिंक माइक खराब है आपका, और महर और अली जो है ना, वो अली कह रहे हैं मैंने अभी उठाऊँ नाश्ता करना है। सो मरियम, आप तीनों मुझे बताएं, एट लंग्स ऑक्सीजन बाइंड्स टू HP. Initial binding is hard, but successive binding becomes easier.
Easy.
And after oxygen binds to HB initially, allosterism occurs. Allosterism means change of the shape. Whose shape gets changed?
Hemoglobin.
Very good, HB and hemoglobin. Then successive binding becomes easier. Right? This allosterism
Yes,
is
sir.
very good thing. Then we just go and jump to tissues,
Respiring tissues.
Where there is respiration, obviously there's more CO2 and less oxygen. So more partial pressure of CO2. What does that do? That CO2 goes from respiring cells to inside the capillary.
Plasma.
From plasma, that CO2 goes inside
The red blood cell.
red blood cells. Mariam, क्या होगा बेटा? From plasma, CO2 goes into the red blood cells, where it combines with 2O. Water, making H2CO3. That is also called carbonic acid, you know. It's an acid in chemistry, they call it carbonic acid. And that carbonic acid, H2CO3, breaks into dash and dash.
H plus HCO3 minus.
Yeah, H plus and HCO3 minus. H plus binds to oxyhemoglobin. Why oxyhemoglobin? Because it has come from lungs, no? Having oxygen with it. So H plus binds to hemoglobin of oxyhemoglobin and makes HHB, hemoglobinic acid. And this H plus binding to HB causes another allosterism, change of shape. So
Which
HB
is a drop of oxygen.
Wow, HB dissociates, drops its oxygen, and sigmoid curve turns right. Why? Because percentage saturation of HB gets more or less.
Oxygen less.
Yeah, percentage saturation of HB. HB is less bound with oxygen. Yeah, less percentage of HB is bound with oxygen because much is released now. So this shift on the right side is called Bohr shift.
Bohr shift.
And H plus to इससे bind हो गया. And where does HCO3 negative ion go? ये खत्म हो जाता है खुद ही है ना. HCO3 negative ions go to plasma, and 85% of CO2 is transported as HCO3 negative. Done? Dear friends,
Done.
any difficulty so far?
No, sir.
तो जी बेटा आप बताइए. Mariam, are you fine with this? Okay, welcome Ali Abdullah, but much is gone. Anyway, so let's write on CO2 transport. So you know CO2 is transported from dash to dash. Hello? CO2 gets transported from?
Cells to the respiring tissues to the lungs.
Yes. Respiring tissues to the lungs. और इसके 3 तरीके हैं. एक हमें मरियम बताएंगी, 2 मैं बताऊँ. जी मिस मरियम. how does CO2 how is CO2 carried from respiring tissues to lungs?
It goes to the plasma.
Yes. So Mariam कह रही है जी 85% CO2 is carried from respiring cells to liver to lungs as HCO3 negative ions. Which also is, you know, its name is hydrogen carbonate. You actually need to know this name. It's about 85%. And then some CO2, some CO2 goes as such, dissolved in plasma. CO2 goes as such. CO2 dissolved in plasma. Now, some CO2 doesn't go as HCO3 negative, but it goes as CO2 dissolved in blood. बच्चों समझ आ रही है कुछ?
HCO3 get dissolved in plasma and then it's transported to the lungs.
Yeah, but some,
To the plasma.
say 10%, for example, 10% CO2 is carried as such, as CO2. And then just 5% CO2 is carried, CO2 bound to HB. जैसे H प्लस बाइंड करता है ना, CO2 भी HB से बाइंड करता है, CO2 भी हेमोग्लोबिन से बाइंड करती है. बेटा सुन रहे हो? नहीं, वो कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड है, ये CO2, और ये बनाता है कार्ब अमाइनो ग्लोबिन. डू यू ऑल टेक केमिस्ट्री? महर, आप केमिस्ट्री पढ़ दिए?
Yes, sir.
तो बेटा आप देखें, आपको तो CO2 एसिडिक गैस, यस और नो?
Yes.
तो CO2, मैं आपको बताता हूँ, CO2 इज एन एसिडिक गैस. यार बहुत अच्छा किया है, बहुत अच्छा किया है. एक सेकंड, एक सेकंड बेटा, एक सेकंड बेटा, बात सुने, का पानी पिलाना है. Some CO2 is carried as bound to HB. तो मैं कहता हूँ CO2 एसिडिक गैस है. डू यू नो? बच्चों, आप लोगों को केमिस्ट्री में आइडिया ना इसका? CO2 when dissolves in water makes an acid, कार्बोनिक.
Yes, sir.
तो hemoglobin जो है ना, hemoglobin, may I ask you how many chains of hemoglobin are there?
4 chains, sir.
4. Very good. 4 chains होते हैं, याद रखें. 2 अल्फा चेन्स होते हैं, 2 बीटा. अच्छा, आप लोगों ने तो चैप्टर 2 नहीं पढ़ा ना? तो बेटा अल्फा and beta means 2 chains are alike, 2 chains are alike. Let me make it like this is hemoglobin, rough picture of it. हेलो, तो आप देखें हेमोग्लोबिन के 2 चेन्स एक जैसे हैं. ये बेटा एमसीक्यूज में क्वेश्चन आता है, आपको बहुत ख्याल से समझने की जरूरत है ये. तो आर यू फॉलोइंग माय डायग्राम? देयर आर 4 पॉलीपेप्टाइड चेन्स, ठीक है? 4 पॉलीपेप्टाइड चेन्स, प्रोटीन चेन. हर एक में आयरन है. डायग्राम समझ आ रही है? इधर भी आयरन, इधर भी आयरन, इधर भी आयरन. और ये सारे, ये 2 एक जैसे हैं और 2 एक जैसे हैं ना. दैट्स व्हाई 2
सर आपने HB के आगे क्या लिखा है? 2B
Sorry?
and what's the other one? What did you write in front of HB? One's 2B and what's the other one?
2 alpha and 2 beta.
Oh, fine.
मतलब 4 चेन्स है ना बेटा, तो उसमें 2 अल्फा चेन्स हैं.
Okay, sir.
And there are 2 beta chains. Why do we call them alpha and beta? एक सेकंड बच्चों, एक सेकंड. From management come here. तो he was asking about children. तो बच्चों ये 4 पॉलीपेप्टाइड चेन्स हैं, 2 एक जैसे, 2 एक जैसे. दिस इज हेमोग्लोबिन, और हर एक में आयरन आयन है. सो ये इसको कहते हैं. अब आपके ख्याल में अगर पॉलीपेप्टाइड चेन्स मींस चेन ऑफ अमाइनो एसिड, यस और नो? बच्चों समझ आ रही है? पॉलीपेप्टाइड मींस व्हेन सो मेनी अमाइनो एसिड्स आर जॉइंड.
Sir, I can't understand this stuff.
You can't understand because this is chapter number 2, biomolecules. बेटा पॉलीपेप्टाइड मींस जब काफी सारे अमाइनो एसिड. ओके, look, hemoglobin is a protein. What are protein made from?
Amino acids.
Yes. तो अमाइनो, केमिस्ट्री में अमाइनो क्या होता है? NH2. तो N N N के ऊपर एक लोन पेयर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन है, so that N behaves as base. Amino group is a base. You understand my point?
Yes, sir.
You know, in chemistry, you need to know that anything which has a free electron pair acts as a base. Now look, this is amino part. आप शॉर्टली ये समझ लें, मैं असल में इसकी डिटेल इसलिए कि बायो मॉलिक्यूल है ना, हम तो 6th चैप्टर कर रहे हैं। ये बड़ी बात है कि आप बायो के 7th चैप्टर से हमारे साथ चल रहे हैं। तो ये देखो, ये अमाइनो जो है ना, ये बेस है। व्हाई इज इट बेस? बिकॉज केमिस्ट्री में आप पढ़ेंगे कि जहां पे भी लोन पेयर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन होगा, इट एक्ट्स एज अ बेस। तो मैं कहता कि CO2 is acidic, so it can attach to amino parts. मैं आप समझ आ रही है? amino parts मतलब hemoglobin is a protein. Protein is made by amino acids. Amino acids have amino part. Amino part is basic. ये सारी explanation वैसे आपको याद समझने की जरूरत नहीं है. What you need to understand that some CO2 goes bound to Hb. Bound to, तो Hb के अली अब्दुल्ला, Hb के कौन से पार्ट से CO2 बाइंड करेगी?
सर हेम ग्रुप के साथ।
वो जालिम, Hb is a protein, right? बच्चों, Hb is a protein, yes or no?
Yes, yes.
And protein is made by dash amino acids. And ये मैंने amino लिखा, NH2 को amino कहते हैं. तो amino part is dash, acid या base?
Base.
And CO2 is acetic gas. तो CO2 binds to amino part of hemoglobin. And this is called carb aminoglobin. What is it called?
Carb aminoglobin.
Yeah. तो CO2 transports. How is CO2? अब हम इसको stop sharing करते हैं. NH2. अब मुझे अली आप बताएं कि how does CO2 go from respiring tissues to lungs? Number one, as dash.
Sir, it binds to H2O to make hydrogen carbonate ions.
नहीं बेटा. Number one, as HCO3 negative ion.
And 85% of it of
शायद ये कहते हैं आप 85%. Then some is carried in plasma.
10% is carried as
Yeah.
CO2.
I
in
think
plasma.
percentage हम सही कह रहे हैं, और some is carried in through what you
CO2
call
bound to Hb.
bound to Hb, right? Bound to amino part of Hb. We call it carb aminoglobin. तो बेटा मीटिंग क्लोज हो रही है, आप लोग मुझे दोबारा अगर ज्वाइन कर लेते हैं तो हम थोड़ा सा टॉपिक एक्सटेंड करते हैं, ठीक है?
Okay, sir.